guys, we are now in Cemetery Pere-Lachaise with Laure.
Hello.
So Laure will tell us everything about the famous ladies that are buried here in Pere-Lachaise, because you're a specialist, right, in women's art tour.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be fun. So today it's kind of a fall day. You will see it's beautiful. It's all orange and green, so we were very lucky. And also we know that we're going to be locked down, so unfortunately that's going to be our last little walk around for at least a month. So I hope, guys, you're going to enjoy that, because we're going to enjoy that for sure. So if it's the first time for you, it's My Great Paris. We're doing that kind of video every week. So like I say, we have another other type of videos that you can look at for all around France. But now we're probably going to stop for a little while. So we are in the modern part of the cemetery, and so we're going to see only ladies today. That's why I brought some flowers, of course, to make an homage, because it's also very close to La Toussaint, so the saints and the All Saints Day, the day where, of course, we go to cemetery. So that's also why we choose this week to do this. And so this modern part, so we have famous ladies but famous men, of course. So how can we choose, the people that we're about to see today?
So most of the time when people go to the Pere-Lachaise Cemetery, they go and see such celebrities as Oscar Wilde, who's buried there, but also Jim Morrison, the leaders of the Doors, and also plenty of other writers, but mostly men. And what some people don't know is that there are actually quite a few ladies buried there. So we decided to make a selection of famous ladies amongst artists, writers, who were actually quite big celebrities during their day. And we're going to keep the surprise for the first one.
Okay, so let's go?
Yes, let's go. So guys, the first thing you need to know about the Pere-Lachaise Cemetery is that it's actually a fairly recent cemetery. Right now we are in the more modern part of the graveyard, but we're going to go slowly down below, and then you'll see a little bit older tombs. And the reason why it was built up is that, well, actually there was no more space in the center of Paris to bury people. So what happened in the beginning of the 19th century is that there were 4 different cemeteries that were being built, and each around the different cardinal point. North, east, that's this one, the Pere-Lachaise Cemetery. It was called actually the East Cemetery of Paris, and West and South. And Pere-Lachaise, if you were wondering, is actually a reference to the confessor of Louis XIV, who used to live here, as a matter of fact. And what happened is that this cemetery in the first place wasn't popular at all. People didn't want to be buried there. So what happened is that there was a massive campaign to transfer the remains of famous people within the cemetery of the Pere-Lachaise, and then it actually worked. So you might wonder, Marie, why is Gertrude Stein over here? Because she's not French, right?
Yeah, Gertrude Stein, so she's an American.
Absolutely. Well, she was actually, she died in Paris. You can see that over here.
Oh yeah, the death. Okay, July 1946 in Paris. So she was living in Paris.
She was.
And how long did she stay in Paris for? Like many years? No, it was not just
many years, almost the whole of her life. She actually started to go to Paris at the beginning of the 20th century, and she was called by her brother because he knew about art, and he wanted his sister to join him. And if you wander around the Latin Quarter, there is a road, a street actually, where you can see the plaque. It's on Rue de Fleurus.
Rue de Fleurus.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where she lived for quite a while. And she lived there with her 2 brothers. And what was interesting is that they built up this enterprise, the Stein enterprise, and they became sort of the biggest art dealers of the day in Paris. And each and every one of the members of the family had their specialties. One was a specialist of Cézanne, another was a specialist of Matisse, and her gig was Picasso. that she met.
So she's the one who made Picasso famous, right?
She did, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so, artists but also writers, right?
Absolutely. Because what she did is that she organized on Saturdays sort of salons where artists and writers used to meet, and from any other countries really. And during the 20s, well, Paris was the big place to be if you were a foreign writer. And there was Hemingway who used to come here.
Hemingway, of course, our favorite, Ernest Hemingway. Okay, so she helped Hemingway, she helped Picasso become famous. So she's great. She also writes, right? I mean, she wrote a huge book about the history of Americans. So I don't know if you guys read that book, but I didn't, so sorry.
Art criticism as well. She wrote about Cézanne, and she wrote a very interesting autobiography because it was written from the point of view of her lover, Alice Stokles, who used to be the secretary of her brothers. And it's quite interesting because you can see the lives of those days, but through the viewpoint of her lover.
Ah, okay. So was it okay that she was a lesbian and living also this romance with Alice?
Well, there were quite a few gay couples evolving around the Latin Quarter at that time, but that certainly didn't make her brother happy. Actually, he was quite jealous of the relationship between the secretary and his sister, and at some point they stopped talking to each other.
So thank you, Laure, for introducing us to this beautiful lady. So now we're just gonna say hello to Gertrude, thank her for everything she made, especially Picasso and Hemingway. And I'm just gonna put that. There's little stones there on the tomb, marking a little heart. Also up there. So why do we have those little stones hanging there? Do you know?
So apparently it's a Jewish tradition, according to which you shouldn't put lights and very ostentatious pieces of memories. And also I've been told that Stein in German, right, means stone.
Oh, okay.
So that might account for it.
That's my account.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very original. In the cemetery Pere-Lachaise, some people are making those little ritual, or they adding, for example, there is this tomb of Parmentier, so he is the one who introduced the potato in France, so a lot of people are letting potatoes. So that's something also people are doing on the tombs of the Pere-Lachaise. Well, in this case, it's little stones, but maybe we're going to see other things on the way.
Yeah, I just wanted to end up with one thing about Gertrude Stein and her relationship with Picasso, because she sat for him. So he made a portrait of her, but there was a very tedious process. There were about 90 different sessions for sitting, and in the end only Picasso and Gertrude Stein liked this portrait. Everyone thought it was really weird that she didn't look very pretty in it, and when people asked Picasso, but why did you make her look that way, and he answered, well, you'll see, she'll resemble it in the end.
I see.
Picasso with the his little punchlines like this.
Okay, well, thank you. If I tell you about La Vie en Rose, does that ring a bell? Because we are just in front of a very, very tiny and humble grave that is over there, and that's for one of the most amazing singer in France, and we're talking about Edith Piaf. So it's very flowery, you can see. So Edith Piaf, you see her real name written here, so Lamboucas, and so she's buried here. It's very humble, it's very simple tomb.
And loads of flowers.
A lot of flowers, of course. She has so many success, not just in France, but all around. I'm sure you know Edith Piaf, you know, of course, her song. So she was very poor, coming from a very poor family. And so she started really low, let's say, and she became one of the most amazing artists in France. So it's very, to me, it's very strange that she's not right there in the middle. She's kind of hidden with other people. Is that, is that normal for such a great artist? She wanted maybe to be humble like that?
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. I like the plaque that you have there, because you see, guys, it says, Edith, your songs will always be remembered and are still quite The question is, they're still current, they're still modern. That's what it says, basically.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. The song. So they're telling, of course, about love. She was also, in this relationship with Yves Montand, which was another star of the time, and he made her very famous. He really helped her growing and getting to all the cabaret around the world.
And he's buried there as well.
And he's buried there, but they are not together because she had another lover after that, which is Marcel Cerdan. And Marcel Cerdan, unfortunately, he died in a very known accident because it was a flight between New York and Paris that crashed. And so, of course, a plane accident like that was a big deal at the time. So her heart was broken. And after that, it was hard for her. She had also a lot of health problems. So let's say, she died still very famous and quite with some money. But like I say, she probably wanted to be remembered as someone very humble from the street where she was coming from. There is this movie also that you can know all about her life. It's called La Môme, because that was also a little nickname, La Môme or Le Piaf, because she had, but she was quite short, she was small, and she had this little head of a little girl, let's say. So that's why we call it La Môme. So you can see this movie and know everything about her.
Des yeux qui font baisser les miens, un rire qui se perd sur sa bouche. Voilà le portrait sans retouche de l'homme auquel j'appartiens. Quand il me prend dans ses bras, qu'il me parle tout bas, je vois la vie en rose.
No, I'm going very slow because this tomb is very tricky to find out, and more than often I miss it.
Okay, so we're looking for Sarah Bernhardt here. So it's kind of the little, like a treasure hunt.
Yes.
So we look.
Shades. Okay, we found her.
We found Sarah Bernhardt. Woo!
Here she is. Okay, we are in front of the tomb of Sarah Bernhardt, who was a famous actress. And what is interesting about her is that from her beginnings, there were sort of a mystery or legend attached to her. You see the date of birth over here? Well, actually, we don't even know if this is the right one. There are other sources mentioning other dates of birth, and she grew up in a convent, and from an early age on, she was already noticed through her eccentric behavior. Apparently, when she was age 7, she threw herself from the window to attract attention on herself.
Attention, like from the convent and from the ladies, or for men?
No, for her aunt.
Okay.
Because her aunt was one of the few family members visiting her, and she wanted to get out of the convent, and she wanted to start an acting career.
Okay.
And she was also noticed from an early age on when she started her career at the Comédie Française, which is a very prestigious institution to start your career as an actor or an actress, because she had a row with another of the famous actresses there, and she slapped her in the face.
Okay.
Yes.
So she was kind of...
Yeah, kind of intense.
Yeah.
You know? And she became hugely famous, and a lot of very famous writers adored her, such as Victor Hugo. He called her the Divine, and she played in quite a few of his plays. But she was also a sculptress, and that's something that not a lot of people know about. She was given art lessons by one of her family members, and she attended a little academy called the Académie Julian, which was sort of an alternative to the School of Fine Arts at that time period. And she made beautiful pieces that were actually quite strange and drawing on themes, Gothic themes, also literature as well. She made the portrait of one of her friends who was a painter called Louis Abema. You can see some of her pieces in Parisian art collections.
Okay, well, nice. And so I can see that you have a lot of little things here, so roses, little stones, and shells as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are still coming and to pay their homage to Sarah Bernhardt. So
She was hugely famous because she really invented the concept of touring as a celebrity.
Yeah.
And she toured abroad, she went to the US. She is the one who actually contributed to Oscar Wilde's fame as well. She acted in one of his plays, and it's actually a play that she ordered for him. It was a commission.
So Oscar Wilde and Sarah Bernhardt together, and so Oscar Wilde is also buried in this cemetery. So okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. And so
This is the key of life, and it's a symbol that you're going to find out a lot in the Pere-Lachaise Cemetery. Apparently, it's one of the esoteric symbols related to Frank Masonry.
So now we left the modern part of the cemetery, and now we're getting to my favorite part.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like it too?
Yeah, very much.
Okay, so let's go to the old part of the cemetery. That way.
We are in front of the tomb of Jane Avril. You can see her name there, but it was a stage name because she was a famous dancer at the Moulin Rouge.
Oh.
But she started her life from a very low background, and she was treated from a young age for several health problems. She had neurosis, and she was treated by Dr. Charcot at the Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital in the 5th arrondissement of Paris. And Dr. Charcot was a specialist of hypnosis, making you fall asleep. Yes, exactly, with a pendulum. She actually had quite a rough experience there, but she had quite a few dance lessons, and she said that it was what saved her. When she went out of the hospital, she started to hang around with quite a few artists, hanging around Montmartre mostly, attending some shows in cabarets, and then progressively becoming a dancer herself.
And was she a French cancan dancer? Or?
She was.
Yeah,
she was.
Okay,
absolutely.
so guys, you probably know about the French cancan, right?
Yeah.
So that started in the Moulin Rouge, and so Jane Avril was one of them.
Yeah. You know that actually cancan didn't start in France.
No, I didn't know that. So
It-
where is that coming from then?
It started in London.
In London?
Yeah.
Wow, that's the first time I hear that. So for me it was, of course it was in the Moulin Rouge, and now you're telling me it's not.
But it was made very popular at the Moulin Rouge, and because of Jane. And also she was famous for one thing. She was famous for her underwear, for her red underwear.
Okay.
And she was the leader of the review, so that she was the only one allowed to wear the red underwear. And they actually keep that tradition even today at the Moulin Rouge. The leader, the female dancer who's the leader of the review, is only she's the only one who has the right to have red underwear.
Okay, so at the time the idea of dancing in French cancan was not just to dance but also to show what was under the skirt. So of course, okay. So now we can dance in French cancan in the cemetery, right now. Okay, so yeah, so if you want to know more about the Moulin Rouge, you have also, of course, Toulouse-Lautrec that is associated to this place, and he also represented Jane Avril. If I'm right.
quite a few
posters
times.
and paintings.
Yeah.
So she made also herself famous thanks to a relationship or friendship, let's say, with Toulouse-Lautrec.
Yeah, absolutely. And she sat for him for quite a few posters, because posters was a big thing at the time. At the end of the 19th century, that was really the start of advertisement, if you like.
Of course. Well, that's great. So she is there, very humble again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's with other people as well.
Yeah, from her family.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven.
So this is one of those kind of scary tomes we have in the Pere-Lachaise. It's very Halloween style. So actually we are in the part that is known for all the dark magic and rituals, so that's pretty cool. And we are about to see the story of La Comtesse Demidoff, and she is also pretty black. So let's have a look. The darkest grave, because there is a whole story about it, so what can you tell?
Yeah, well, I think you're quite afraid of it,
Yeah,
aren't you?
I'm not feeling very well here because I know the story, but yeah, that's a very Halloween kind of story.
Yeah, so, all right. The Countess Demidoff was married to an aristocrat, but they lived quite apart, actually. They were pro-Napoleonian, and they spent their time in between Russia, where they were from initially, and France. She died a few years after her husband, and she asked for herself to be built this gigantic,
It's amazing. Yeah, it's weird.
mausoleum. The problem is that it was not very much to the other inhabitants in the vicinity's taste. They thought it was very bad taste, you know. They thought it was very very kinky, very over the top.
You think? I mean,
Yeah.
there's wolf and things like that everywhere. Yeah, it's just a little bit over the top.
Over the top, yeah. But the thing actually that she was known for is the legend that grew up around it. Well, first of all, if you pay attention to the symbols all around the tomb, now you see we have the wolves and also the little animals that we have here.
The Ermina?
Yes, absolutely. They are actually allusions to the family's fortune. They made fortune in
The fur
in
industry?
Yes, the fur market, and also in iron. So that's why you have the hammer just over here.
Hammer for the iron.
And apparently, when the Countess died, there is this legend saying that she would leave the entire fortune to the one person who would be able to lie with her in her nearby her crystal rock coffin, just inside over here, for about 360 nights and 365 days. And apparently no one was able to make it till the end.
Okay.
Because the people who stay there, actually in the records it says that the person who stayed the longest stayed about for 3 weeks, and all the participants in the challenge said that at some point either they lost their minds, they felt the Countess' presence nearby them, they also felt very oppressed, they felt that it was an ominous place, and also there were quite a few rules that were added to it, in the sense that you were not allowed to leave the Countess. And the only moment of the day you were allowed to take a stroll through the cemetery was for 1 hour only, in between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. So
it's like a lockdown, but with
Yeah.
the body of a contest,
Yeah.
the dead body of a contest just aside of you. So it's not a good idea.
there were quite a few activities that were possible. You were allowed to read,
Oh,
and there was also a servant of the Countess coming to feed you every day.
okay. So maybe we should have a quick look through the door.
Oh, yeah.
To see if there is someone there.
Yeah.
I hope not. Please tell me not.
So we say that this is the passage to go to hell.
Wow, okay. So now I'm feeling even better. Thank you, Laure. Okay, so this was probably the door where the people were going and to sleep with the contest. I'm kind of afraid, but I will look for you guys if there is still someone. Okay, I see. It's pretty large inside. My voice is echoing, so I don't know how deep the thing is, but well, I can just put the rose in case someone is there. Anybody? Let's see. We will pass again, maybe in a year. Let's see. Ciao. So if we like the Pere-Lachaise is not just for the amazing sepulture, the amazing graves that are here, it's also because it's a gigantic park in the middle of Paris. You see we are surrounded by trees, many species, many animals, and you can hear also some birds just up. You have also cats, of course. Some people say they are seeing some foxes, so we can open our eyes to see if we see a fox today. But yeah, that's also why this Pere-Lachaise is so known and so beautiful, and people love this cemetery. And to be honest, that's the only place we want to be buried in Paris.
Did you know that there was a fox litter that was born in here during lockdown?
A fox litter?
Litter.
Oh, litter.
Cubs. Yeah, baby foxes.
Baby foxes. Okay, so we need to look very carefully because probably we're gonna have many more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, bon. So here you can tell that we are in really the oldest part of the cemetery. You can see that the vegetation is coming and just covering the tomb. This one is from 1830, so at the very beginning of the cemetery Pere-Lachaise. So this cross is broken here. The tree that grew is just taking all the space, getting into the graves here. Here you can see also the roots breaking the stone. So this is also what is charming about Pere-Lachaise, how the trees, how the plants are just taking over all the place.
Yeah, no, I love the colors.
Yeah, it's all green. It's very it's like a decor. So here we are in front of Rosa Bonheur. So who is she?
She was a painter, she was a drawing master, and we're talking here of the best-selling artist of her generation, even before her male contemporaries.
Wow,
Yeah.
Okay. So Rosa Bonheur, she was French, yes, and she lived in Paris.
She did.
And so what is her style?
So basically she's painting in a sort of realistic style, but she was quite clever because at the time, if you were a lady, you did not have the right to study at the School of Fine Arts. And so when you were in that predicament, you were also barred from certain artistic genres. What was really important if you really wanted to make your entry as an artist was painting and drawing the nude. That was the basis of artistic education, and also painting in the historical genre. So it could be a depiction of a famous battle in history, it can be a depiction of myth, the Bible, a scene drawn from literature on monumental format. But what she did is that she decided to represent animals on huge dimensions, and she was quite successful. And what was interesting is that the critics of the day said that she painted like a man.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that was a good thing, I assume, for the critics? Like
Yeah.
she painted like a man?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
that's weird.
guess so. I guess
Okay.
so. So you can see her paintings at the Musée d'Orsay. There is a big one called Ploughing, and you can see some farmers and some bulls going from one point of the canvas to another one, and there's quite a few drawings kept in the Musée d'Orsay collection. But the biggest pieces that she made are actually in English-speaking countries, because she was quite clever in the sense that she gave interviews. She also actually had her artworks reproduced in engravings so that they could be disseminated throughout
She knew how
the
to do
world.
some marketing about her
Absolutely,
work
yeah.
in a way. Okay.
Yeah, and she was trained by her father, and then when her father died, she is the one who actually took direction of the School of Design for Ladies, because that was the position of her father. And everyone in the family was artists. I was an artist, actually. Her mother, her father, her sister. So she had quite a lot of luck in her childhood background.
Okay, and so bonheur in French, for you can maybe translate, so it's happiness.
And her legacy was assured by one of her friends that is buried here with her. You can see her name. She's an American painter. She's called Anna Klunke, and Anna Klunke actually wrote her biography. So that's how Rosa Bonheur was known through the English-speaking world. You see also that she is in the same burying ground as the Mika family. Natalie Mika was a very good friend that she met during childhood, and she lived with her in her castle because Rosa Bonheur was actually very rich, and she was rich enough to buy herself a castle in the Fontainebleau forest, and that's where the Empress Eugenia visited her and awarded her the Legion of Honor. So that's why we have the symbol over here, because she received this award in 1864.
And that's very, so that's the top thing you can get really in France, this Légion d'honneur. We know that mostly men receive it, so that's also quite something for Rosa Bonheur to have it.
And also the interesting thing is that most of the time people receive it when they have performed military service or hero deeds for the nation. Not so much at that time when you were an artist, but she did receive that award. The thing that you might want to know about Rosa Bonheur is that she was very good friends with Buffalo Bill, who was invited to Paris for the Universal Fair at the end of the 19th century, and she wanted to thank him because he allowed her to go to the pavilion and sketch from the animals that he had, especially the horses. So after that, she decided to make his portrait, and Buffalo Bill liked this portrait so much that when his house burned in the flames, he said that everything could go to the film except for the portraits that Rosa Bonheur had made of him that he wanted to save because he liked it dearly.
So here we are just in front of Héloïse and Abelard. It's a very famous couple in Paris. So what can you tell us about Héloïse?
Well, Héloïse was actually a very gifted lady, very talented. From a very young age, she was educated by the nuns in a convent. Apparently, she was the daughter of an illegitimate couple. So she was put there in this convent, and then she studied a lot of different subjects. Actually, she studied literature, she studied classics, Greek and Latin as well, and also arithmetics, grammar, to the point that when she got out of the convent, she wanted to pursue her education, and this was not very common at the time in France.
Okay, so we're talking about the 12th century?
Yeah.
Okay, so
absolutely.
at the time it's only monks and men mostly having education, so it's very unlikely for a woman to get any type of education, right?
Especially when she wanted to pursue it outside of the religious sphere.
So she is buried here. She's buried with a man, Abelard.
Yeah, absolutely. Abelard, in the first place, was a teacher chosen by Héloïse's uncle for her to pursue her education. But what the uncle didn't plan was that it was love at first sight.
So they met, it's love at first sight. And so what's happening after?
Well, the problem is that Fulbert, the uncle, discovered the affair.
So the uncle of Héloïse, okay, he knows everything. And
let's say that he wasn't very happy about that. So they fled from Paris, and Héloïse actually settled in Abelard's sister's home because she was pregnant.
Oh, Héloïse was pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay. And so did they get even married, or?
Well, actually, she wasn't too keen on that.
Okay.
But Fulbert actually had wanted to make a deal with the couple. They said that they could come back to Paris, and he said that it was okay with him if they got married.
I see.
So Abelard came back to Paris to try to negotiate with the uncle, but then something else happened.
Okay.
He was cornered in the Ile de la Cité, in the center of Paris, by two thugs sent by Fulbert, and they emasculated him. So it was a trick.
Oh, that is so suffering from emasculation. You have on the other side Héloïse pregnant with the baby, and then are they back together?
Apparently, they saw each other just a few times, but what really survives from their relationships is their letters, the correspondence that you can still read today. It's being published.
So they were in Latin, I assume, or were they in French, or
either in Latin or Old French.
Or Old
the
French.
old version of French.
But they translate them so we can read them in French, even in English. You have Héloïse and Abelard. So this is a true story of two lovers living in the 12th century. Okay, so I'm going to try to throw the rose to Héloïse, but she's pretty far. There you go.
You've seen Mary throwing a rose, and actually what happens is that couples leave some offerings nearby Héloïse and Abelard, especially if their parents are against their union, so that their relationship can be blessed by the legendary lovers.
Okay, so it's still a thing today. People are coming and trying to. That's very charming. And I remember seeing also little red candles. So you think it's also associated to that, to this
Maybe.
love, to the passion. Okay, so we need to be blessed by Héloïse. So. So here we are in front of a tomb that is very important because it's Mlle Lenormand, and important for the cemetery because it's a place where a lot of rituals, like magical rituals, actually happen. You will see that on this tomb there is many cards. So let me show you what we have here first. So you see some cards here with the little angel, many cards around, because she was into divination, so she was reading cards. She was a tarot mancienne in French, and she could read the future into the cards. So of course in Paris it was something quite interesting. Napoleon himself apparently did have some interviews with the Mlle Lenormand. She was really from the lower class, so she made herself famous thanks to this art. Some people, she also say that she could speak with the dead and of course predict things that will happen. And now a lot of people are coming here making some rituals, so maybe we're gonna see things. So it's always kind of a treasure hunt. So you can see the cards here. Someone let I don't know what it is, but let's go around. Voilà. Oh. So sometimes people are, you see, hiding things like this. Okay, so guys, this is not just a painting, this is an entire magical ritual. So I'm going to touch it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I will show you what is inside. So you see there is a message that is here. It's like different paintings in one package. So maybe someone wants the protection of Mlle Lenormand, maybe it's something else. I don't want to know. So you see some things are hidden. Here someone put a little note. We don't know what it is. Probably some kind of prayer to Mlle Lenormand. But I'm gonna let everything like it was. Okay. So you see here we have some cards. So this is really Halloween to me. So those cards, for example, are part of a game of divination. So they are a bit different, you see, so to read the future. So this is exactly the good period to do so, because Halloween, as you know, is the period where you can speak with the dead, or at least that's what we're believing, so with the different spirits. So yeah, so this tomb might be tiny, but there is always something great happening here, always people decorating, let's say, the grave.
So this is the tomb of famous writer Colette, as you can see it. And Colette started her writing career with her husband. She married quite young, actually, and she married to someone who was actually employing some people to write things for him that he signed under his own name. And so after that, what happened is that he employed her, and signing with his own name, she wrote her memoirs, her childhood memories. But this didn't last for long, and then when she broke up with him, she started a big career on stage. She performed at the Moulin Rouge, as a matter of fact, and then she became a journal director. She was also quite famous in the world of letters. She wrote plenty of books, and she was famous for writing about animals. She loved cats, actually, and also writing about complicated relationship in couples. And there's a strange legend that goes with her tomb, because Colette was known for loving cats so much. People say that when the cemetery closes, all the cats of the cemetery converge to Colette's grave.
So the last rose that we have for today is for the mistress of Napoleon I, so the great Napoleon, as we know. So he had a mistress from Poland, and her name is Mary, like me. And so she's buried here. She also had a son that was called Alexandre Wallemski, because she was Marie Wallemska, and he became one of the ministers under Napoleon I. And so yes, so she's buried here with her family, so don't I know? So that's for her. She was very influenced for Napoleon, and that's another thing the women, the strong women are known for, is that they influence the word of the politic. So Mary had Chopin, so the composer, as a teacher, so she became also very well educated, so thanks to him. And it's funny because of course Chopin is also buried in Pere-Lachaise. So thank you so much, Laure, for this amazing tour of Pere-Lachaise. So you learn a lot of things about different ladies. Of course, there is many men also that you need to discover. So whenever you have the time to come in Paris, whenever it's possible, of course, discover the Pere-Lachaise. So thank you very much, Laure. It was really interesting, and see you soon. We don't know when, but of course, if you want to still support us, you can tip your guide for today, and we're also going to give you some extra bonus images, so you can do that. Okay, ciao guys, thank you so much. Bye.